And welcome, folks, to a live edition of the Michigan Basketball Insider with some great news, some news that I think was unexpected for a great many of you. I think the optimistic Michigan basketball fans maybe started to feel like this was a possibility around the time of an official visit for one Mr. Yaxel Lendeborg when he started to talk about, yeah, I'm starting to feel this college thing. I'm starting to feel about Michigan as more of a possibility of doing this college thing, and even around the combine where he started to talk about a 50-50, even a 60-40 possibility about the University of Michigan. And then yesterday, the news broke that Yaxel Lendeborg is coming to University of Michigan. To break down this big time news is my man, my guy, the big fella, the man who was an All-American out of Clarkston, Michigan, a big time ball player in his own right at the University of Michigan, a first round draft pick in 1984, 10 years in the NBA. And after his days roaming the hardwood in the National Basketball Association, he went on to be one of the best broadcasters in the land, both pro and college. He's still doing his thing. And then, of course, he's doing his thing right here on the Michigan Basketball Insider. I call him my big fella, Timmy Mack. You know him as Tim McCormick. Tim, how you doing?
Fantastic. I was thinking back to the day when Chris Webber signed with Michigan. I know you remember it well, Juwan Howard. There have been some great players, Glenn Rice, but this one gets me really excited because I didn't expect it at all. Of massive significance for next year and beyond. And I've studied Yaxel's game. He looks like an NBA player to me. I must admit, I'm surprised he passed on the NBA being a first round draft pick. Not many guys do. I don't know his NIL package. It must be multi-million dollars to be able to justify not taking that NBA contract. And so kudos to Dusty May and all of the collectives that did their job. I think that this roster now, with the addition of him, like without him, they were going to be fine. They're an NCAA team with a chance to win. This changes everything. He's a special player, Sam. I expect all Big Ten. He's physical. He's strong. He's got great presence. He reminds me a little of Trey Kaufman-Renn with a little bit more skill, like a hard playing dude that doesn't mess around, a physical specimen. His game, I'm not saying he plays like Danny Wolf, but he does a lot of the same things. He's very skilled. He moves without the ball. He makes others better. He can spot up from three. His mid-range game, I don't love. There's a lot of similarities there. But maybe most important is that when you go into Mackey Arena or a tough place, you've got a guy that you're pretty certain is going to get you, between 15 and 20 points, 10 rebounds, and he's going to make big plays for you. So as you can tell, Sam, I'm a little bit excited about Yaxel.
Yeah, as Ike Harris said, he said, Timmy Mack, we got him. And Tim, you were kind of keeping me tame. You were keeping me restrained. You said, Sam, now listen, this is the scouts, they love him. They are very intrigued by him. He's likely a first round pick. And I think that's where we need to sort of give this some perspective. You know, he laid it out, Tim, that he wanted a guarantee. That's what he was looking for out of UAB. A guaranteed contract that if he got it, he was going to go to the NBA. And by all accounts, whether you start with Jonathan Givney, who's probably the guy for the most part, is breaking down these mock drafts. He was pretty well locked in after the combine as a late first round pick. But if you listen to Dusty, who came on my show, and he said, "Listen, we beat second round draft pick money. We beat that. So that's what we do." Now, when you add in the element of now we have shown that we can take guys and we develop them into lottery level picks. That's what they should. Now it's not just lip service, Tim. They just did it with Danny Wolf, right? It's not just pie in the sky. And we compete for Big Ten championships. They just won one. You can take a guy like Yaxel Lendeborg and now you change the equation. So he can look at it and say, how different is the money really? If I know I'm going to get at least second round money, which is some, millions of dollars, like you said, he probably could make some more money. But how much more? Is it really that much more when you can say, if I can come, I can compete for a Big Ten championship, maybe a national championship. I can maybe be Big Ten player of the year. And then Dusty May can develop me and his staff can develop me into a lottery pick. And I can make a lot more money. Well, now the calculus is different, Tim. I think that's how he started thinking, especially after he came to Ann Arbor on that official visit.
Yeah. So let me try to break it down. If you're the 25th pick in the first round, your money is guaranteed. You make a lot of money. You can buy a really nice car if you want. You can buy a house. You can take care of your family. However, if you're getting the same amount of money from Michigan, you get a chance to build your profile on a national stage. Everybody's going to know his name. Right now, very few people saw him play last year. Now everybody that's a college basketball fan is going to watch him. And one of the things that I liked about basketball 20, 30, 40 years ago was that you got a chance to get to know Ralph Sampson and Patrick Ewing and Glenn Rice and all these guys that were around for 3 and 4 years. And that's a positive. You build a strong personal brand. Also, by coming back, if he elevates himself with a really good year to being the number 12 or the 10 or maybe the 8th pick in the draft, the money changes and it becomes generational wealth. It's so much more. So I think it was a good investment. And I do like the fact that now colleges are able to go ahead and compete. And Sam, Michigan came out strong. There were some things I really liked. The patience of Dusty May. This process was some old school high level recruiting. We love your game. We're willing to wait for you. You take your time. You do what you need to do. We're going to be there. And they went head to head with Kansas and Kentucky and Duke and Carolina. Everybody that was any good wanted him on their team. And Dusty built a relationship. And Dusty was patient. And he said, I'm your friend. I'm going to make you great. I'm going to teach you what you need to know. And I also think the fact that with Golden and Wolf, Michigan showed that they thrive with two big guys. And one of the things that I noticed from watching a lot of Yaxel's game tape is that, he plays like a 4, but if you look at their roster and if you look at their game film, he was more of an undersized 5-man than he was a power forward. Now he's going to get a chance to play like the big boys do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other thing that really stood out, the way that they really supported him in his goal of being the best he could be, the best Yaxel he can be, whatever path that wound up being, wherever that path wound up taking him. They went to the combine and rooted him on, Tim. Right? So if that path took him to the NBA, they were like, hey, you know what, man? We're gonna be there to root you on. And that, what must that have said to him?
That's my friend up there. There's Dusty. That's my boy. I love it.
What must that have said to him that the staff was there rooting him on, cheering him on? Hey, if the combine takes you to the NBA, Michigan is rooting you on like you're one of their guys like you played for Michigan already. I
No,
know
you're
that would have
right.
said a lot to me,
No,
right?
you're right. You're completely right. And Sam, another thing that I think is important to note, the hottest position of need in the NBA is that four-man, that power forward that can handle the ball, can cover people. And like last night, I watched the Knicks and Pacers. I'm sure you did too.
Mm-hmm.
What do
Mm-hmm.
those teams all have in common that the teams that are sitting at home, like the Pistons, don't have? And that's that face-up four that can make a three. He can post up a little bit. He's a good passer. He moves without the ball. Pacers have Pascal Siakam, and the Knicks have Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby too. Do it all forwards, dribble, pass, shoot skills are evident. And then also, if you watch OKC, they've got Chet Holmgren. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they've got Minnesota has Jaden McDaniels. He's 6'9". He can cover anybody. You know, they play Julius Randle. Power forward is a big position of need for NBA teams. And I think that was part of the recruiting pitch, that let us work with you. Look at Danny Wolf. Like he's running all over the place, and he's creating and throwing some crazy passes. And, you know, he played with great freedom. That's got to be really, really appealing to a guy like Yaxel Lendeborg.
Yeah, so Tim, I know I asked you when they got Ademara, I said, can you play him and Morez together? You like, no, 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 no.
No, I don't see that.
But Yaxel, you could play him with either of these guys, or either of those guys, right? That fits, doesn't it?
He can play with anybody, because he's got guard skills. Here's how I would see it next year. That Morez Johnson's he's your center. He's going to gobble up offensive rebounds. He's going to rim run. He's going to block shots. He gives you the ability to switch 1 through 5, maybe 1 through 4, but I can see him developing into that kind of defender. And your 4 is Yaxel Lendeborg. So that's the best 1-2 combination at the power positions in the Big Ten. And then they're probably going to play, I would guess Lendeborg would play 30 minutes a game and Johnson would play 22 minutes a game. And then that allows the freedom to play Mara and Will Cheddar 15 minutes a game. I don't know if they're going to be happy with that, but that's a pretty darn good lineup. And I think with especially Mara, you say, look, give us a year to develop you, and we're going to have you as the new age Zach Edey, and we're going to run our offense through you. I think that's really appealing to me.
Yeah, man. It's maybe not what he had in mind from a minutes perspective, but you can build on it. And then to your point, maybe he's not Edey this year, but if you can show him the vision, maybe he could be Edey next year, and you can grow into that being the focal point. But now let's look at it big picture as far as the Big Ten is concerned. There was no question, Tim, before Yaxel comes to Michigan, it's Purdue all the way. I mean, Braden
No
Smith,
doubt.
Trey Kaufman, I mean, it's hands down Purdue's conference. Now, is it fair to say, I mean, it's 1 and 1A with Michigan, or are you still saying it's Purdue then Michigan? How do you see it?
No, I think right now that Michigan is completely capable of beating Purdue. I think they've got some better depth, and I think that, who's going to have the best player on the court? I mean, Braden Smith's an All-American next year, and Trey Kaufman-Renn is a star. But Michigan can match up with them, and I have no fears about the weaponry that Michigan has, that they can go on the road anywhere in the Big Ten and win. And I'm more excited to see how the guards work out. I think that there are some real concerns, like who's your backup point guard. They must have seen a lot out of LJ Kaysen to say, yeah, he's going to be our backup point guard, because they didn't go into the portal and get another backup point guard. Cadeau is going to be so much fun, but that guy has to play healthy. He's got to stay on the court, and he's got to run this offense because he's a high assist, high turnover guy. And it's going to be really fun to see how they're able to develop chemistry between their guards and their big guys, because you could bring in all the talent you want, but if you can't make them like each other and get along and play as a unit, then all of a sudden you could have potential chemistry issues. So I don't see that happening, but it's going to be really fun. I can't wait for that first game to try to figure out what everybody's role is and how everybody gets along.
Yeah, Tim, you and I, those Purdue matchups, we had whole shows. Really, if I felt like the whole show was based on the matchup with Trey Kaufman-Renn, and you and I, we spent that, as much as we love Vlad and as great a season as Vlad had, that matchup, it's like, hey, Vlad, just give me something in that matchup. Just give him back, score a few points, because physically in that matchup, he had an advantage. There is no way, I guarantee you right now, there is no way Trey Kaufman-Renn is going to beast that matchup the way he did last year. You got Morez Johnson in that matchup now. That's not happening this year. Tim, we need that matchup right now. I'm ready to see it right now.
Pace yourself, Sam. We got a lot to go on before that happens. I have to tell you, last week I woke up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, and I was having flashbacks to that Illinois game where we couldn't even grab a rebound. Like I was there, and we talked a lot about that. That's not going to happen with the four guys they've got right now. And Will Cheddar's your weakest rebounder, but he does a lot of good things too. But those other three big guys, they are going to rebound the basketball. And what was a real weakness throughout last year is going to be a strength now.
Yeah, here's another thing that we have to shout out here really quickly. And you called this first. So Indiana and Mike Woodson part ways, and you instantly, before it became an issue, you said Dusty May's not going anywhere. You said Ward Manuel is going to get this done. It's not even going to be a question. It's not even going to. Don't even worry. Don't even let it be a concern, right? And it was like a week later, thereabouts, and it was like contract was done, commitment was made. Like, this is going to be very clear Dusty May is the guy. And so in that, there was a commitment, there was a contract, but that there were some assurances made. And whether it was facilities or NIL, like there was a commitment to the program that if we weren't necessarily seeing it, that there were some things behind the scenes. And this seems to me that this is an example, the Yaxel Lendeborg, that you're able to, beat out the Kansases and the other big time programs. Tim, they just beat the NBA. That is a flex. If you could beat the NBA for a guy, that's the biggest NIL flex out there. That, hey, NIL wise, Michigan on the football side of things is beating the LSUs of the world for a guy like Bryce Underwood. If Michigan can beat the NBA for Yaxel Lendeborg, well, Michigan is getting down on the basketball side of things, NIL wise too. That is a flex as well, showing you the commitment to Dusty May.
Yeah, I agree. And they won some hardware last year in year one of Dusty May. He's got to be able to see that through NIL, through facilities, through the allure of Michigan academics, that they're poised to be a front-running program in the Big Ten for a long time. How long is Tom Izzo going to be around? I don't know. There's so many good quality programs in the Big Ten, but Michigan is poised to be the best, and their coach runs a system that's really appealing. And I think that next year is going to be a special year. really excited to see what they do on the wing. Have you thought at all about who's going to be at the 2 and the 3?
Yeah, man. I mean, have we been around since it became official? I don't know if since it became official that Namari was coming back. I can't remember if we did a show, but yeah, some really intriguing options there that they could really run out with Namari on whether it's Namari, of course, you come in with Trey McKinney. Definitely has to get some run there. I'm really intrigued about how they're gonna do it and fit these pieces to the puzzle there. They got a lot of versatility that they could work in that mix. Of course, you're starting with Namari and Roddy as guys that I'm the veterans in the mix that you know what you're going to get there every single night.
I look at the workload, and the shooting guard and small forward is going to be a real strength. Namari Burnett is their best shooter, and I have no doubts of that. He shot 40% from 3, which is really impressive. I've forgiven Roddy Gale. He went in January and February without making threes. A man in that second round NCAA game, he had 26, and so Roddy and I are good. We're back. We're back in good graces. And I think he's going to start. I think that he fits really well with his ability to play in transition. LJ Kaysen is your backup point guard, and he's a backup shooting guard. Trey McKinney addresses something that they need, and that's perimeter shooting. I think he's going to play immediately. He's got to play, right? I mean, he's a McDonald's All-American. He's the best player in the state. I think he's got to get minutes. And right now, I think that Winters Grady and Oscar Goodman probably have that fat Brooks role. Probably not going to see them a lot unless it's a blowout game. But I think Michigan's going to play super fast with this team.
Yeah, I think, the thing that there are a few things that lend themselves to Trey playing immediately. And I admit to not knowing as much about Winters. And maybe Winters will have some of these same elements. I just know that Trey is a super high IQ guy too. In addition to being physically mature, he is just a strong-bodied guy. So it lends itself to him being able to, from a maturity standpoint, being able to hit the floor and being able to play the college game in that way. But, being able to absorb, all of the concepts that he's going to have to be able to absorb, that part of it, he's going to be able to get on the floor earlier as well. So I don't think it's not just from the standpoint of he's Mr. Basketball in the state of Michigan. There's some pressure in that in and of itself, but it's not just that. It's that he's going to be ready to get on the floor too, and he's going to be able to help them. I think that's huge. And to talk about flexes, I talk about the flex from Dusty coming in, beating the NBA for the guy. The big flex before that is Dusty coming in and beating Tom Izzo for the top player in the state of Michigan from Flint, Michigan. And Tom Izzo not even making the cut for the group of finalists. I mean, think about that for a second. Yeah. Tom Izzo not making the cut for a guy from Flint. That's Dusty May flexing as soon as he walks in the door. I mean, I can't say enough about the guy.
Yeah, I'm looking at the new players, and I'm obviously really excited to see Johnson. I think he is a perfect fit. Rim runner, shot blocker, rebounder. Lendeborg does it all. I can't wait to see him. Elliot Cadeau is in a tough situation in North Carolina. He didn't play well. He was turnover prone. I don't think it's an easy system. But maybe Trey McKinney is somebody that I want to see more than anybody else, because he could be a major face of this program moving forward. And also, I feel like I can relate to what he has gone through and what he is going through. Remember, in 1980, I was the best player in the state of Michigan. I was a McDonald's All-American. I was from Oakland County, and a lot of people wanted to see me play. And as a freshman, I had very much a role player's role, because there were a lot of really good players ahead of me on a pretty darn good team. And that's the same scenario that Trey McKinney is going to go through, where he's got veteran players in front of him. And if he plays 12 to 15 minutes a game, and that's what he's ready for right now, don't let social media distract you. Just keep working on your craft, because he's going to be a pro at some point, and he can't get distracted by the haters.
Yeah, he might be his biggest role might be, hey man, knock down open shots.
Yep.
You know,
And that's not bad, because he's going to be surrounded by playmakers. That's not a bad role at all. Ask a couple of the Pistons wings about that. And Tim Hardaway Jr. was the perfect example. You don't need to create, just go stand over there. We're going to throw you the ball, knock down threes.
Yeah, now, one of our viewers brings up a great point, Tim, and this is legit, and I wonder what you think about it. Michigan Real Talk says, explosive athleticism from the guard spot is my concern. Getting downhill and finishing at the rim by guards at turning time matters. And he's right. There is not that element on this team, just explosive quickness or leaping ability. That's not readily available on this roster. What about that piece of it?
Yeah, valid. I mean, who's your great wing athlete? LJ Kaysen is probably number one. He's a smaller version of Jaden Ivey when he was at Purdue. So that'll be important. But if you don't have that clear out driver, I think Michigan is going to have to really try to get 3-point shooting up. Drive and kick, post up and kick. They've got guys that should be capable. And I think Kaysen will improve a great deal from three. I think that Lendeborg shot a lot of mid-range, but I can see him being more of a 3-point threat. But you can't have everything, Sam. What
Right.
are you going to do? You could go out and get another athlete, but at this point, the guys that are really athletic to get to the rim guys, they're long gone. And so I like the makeup of it, but you can't have everything. And
Yeah,
Michigan's got a lot.
yeah, they're gonna basically it's gonna be about their size. Michigan is gonna impose their will with their size and exert that advantage and try to play off of that. Ball
Hey
screen,
Sam,
drive and kick, like you said.
let me ask you a question, because I brought it up. We didn't really elaborate on it. Do you think Merez Johnson is athletic enough that he can switch 1 through 5? And because I think with Lendeborg's length, he's got long arms and he moves well. I think he can cover 1 through 5 in certain situations. Do you think Merez Johnson can, or are they going to
Yeah,
get
I
back to that
do.
drop
I do.
coverage?
You bring up an interesting point about Merez Johnson. I think it's going to be a season where we, especially early in the year, we watch the coaching staff kind of explore a little bit. You remember early in the year with Danny, how we were like they were kind of feeling him out, kind of letting him see, and the turnovers were like, as he was kind of putting it on the deck a little bit, and the turnovers were kind of high, and you're like, hey, do you reel him in a little bit, or do you just let him see what he can do? And I think they're going to do that with Merez, because I do think he's athletic enough to switch 1 through 5. I think they're going to maybe let him shoot a few jumpers as well to see if that part of his game has evolved a little bit. That was a part of his game that they discouraged a bit at Illinois, because he can't shoot. He can't shoot. He's a young guy. Maybe that part of his game just hadn't developed yet, but he just needed a little more time on task. I think they're going to explore a little bit on both ends of the floor to kind of see how far he's come. And if it looks like he's shown promise in both respects, and maybe it shows that he hasn't developed enough to be trusted enough to shoot the basketball, to get permission to do that. But I'm pretty confident that it's going to show that he's a switchable defender. I don't know about shooting, But I am confident that they're going to show that he's a pretty versatile defender. They're going to be able to switch 1 through 5 with him.
Who do you think at this age is going to be a better player, Musa Diabate or Merez Johnson?
At this age, I think Merez is going to be better because I think Merez is going to be more physical. I think Merez is going to be more of a more consistent with his back to the basket. I think I'm confident. I'm pretty confident that Merez is also going to be another year. I think he's going to get more time in more time to develop. That's where I'm going with it. That's why I'm going to go with Merez being the guy that's going to be better in the long run.
Yeah,
that's the guy.
And at this point, one of the greatest skills that a coach can have is relatability to the players and selling a long-term vision and having a fun environment and a competitive environment and develop those relationships, because now if Michigan can start keeping their players, you've got something going. I talked to Scott Drew from Baylor about 3 weeks ago, and he said, everything in life is good except I have 0 players on my team. Every single guy left. And I like the way Scott Drew runs his program. He's an excellent coach. But at some point, how do you get guys to say, I'm part of a program. I like it here. I'm not just going to leave to make a little bit more money. And I think that's Dusty May's challenge, because there's some good young players that if they can develop over time, then you've got something that's special. And I hope that it seems like he's got that going. The fact that Roddy Gale and Amari Burnett and LJ Casing came back, that's a big win right there.
Yeah, very huge. So LJ especially, because he probably had opportunities.
Oh
So
yeah.
keeping him is huge, absolutely huge. And then the guys that you recruit, your freshmen, being able to kind of show them a path, a developmental path where they don't get impatient and leave. Like I think you got to show, I think you got to be able to show Winters. Trey, I think it's really easy to kind of see what that role is going to be, but I think it's important for them to be able to show Winters a path too. I don't know what it looks like, but I think you got to be able to show it for him too, because day and age of a guy just sitting and waiting his turn, I don't know that exists anymore, Tim. Not
Right.
a highly rated guy. Not a highly rated guy. Like, they got to be able to see it. You got to give them some kind of carrot in this
Right.
day and age, or they just get up and go.
Well, Fat Brooks left, and that's probably not a great example because he didn't play last year. He was not going to play this year. But now where is he at? He's at Central Michigan. And I know Central Michigan has almost no NIL money. So he took a pay cut. Now, the good news is that he's going to a program that does not have much talent, and he can be the man, and he can average 15 points per game. And then next year he's going to be coveted on the NIL market. But
Yeah.
when I think of Winters Grady, I think of Sam Walters, not as big, but a shooter, good role player. Like, can you sit for a year and learn and get better without playing a lot of games? That's what I worry about.
See, here's the thing. So I think Fat, I think he has talent. So this is not me saying that he doesn't have talent. I really, really do. And I hope he does well at CMU. It's just that I think what he does well, they have a lot of. And I just don't think that there was room for him to be able to show that here. Whereas Winters, I just think there's always room for shooting. Like, there's always room for shooting. Now, how often will that need manifest on this roster? I don't know. But I feel like there will be opportunities for shooting to arise, for that need to show up this season. So I can see that. Like, for Fat, I can tell you, I could see them go through a season and the need never arise for what he offers them. But for
Right.
Winters and what he does, that's going to show up. The need for that is going to show up. Now, I got
Mhm.
to ask you this question before we get out of here, Tim, because I know we're short on time. But Oscar Goodman, we can't go to show without talking about him because he's a freshman with a youngster with a head start, having come in already, gotten run with the team, getting acclimated to the team, getting it going through the conditioning program already. What about him and maybe getting a jump start on being a contributor on the team?
So he's 6'8", right? He's a wing. Where are you going to play him, Sam? Are you going to take some minutes away from Lendeborg or Will Cheddar? I mean, those are veteran guys. I don't want to cut their minutes at all. And Roddy Gale and Namari Burnett play the 3. So I don't see any space at all for Oscar Goodman. Goodwin.
Mm-hmm.
Goodman? Good. I think it's Goodman.
Yeah, Goodman. Yes, Oscar Goodman. Yeah, he meant Oscar Goodman, but yeah,
Yeah.
not Goodwin. But we know who he meant. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Does he eat into some veteran minutes? I'm not quite sure. Dusty seemed very, very pleased with his progress. Definitely made some Will Cheddar comparisons in talking about what the kind of the grit that he brings to the table. But you got Will Cheddar. You already got Will Cheddar, right? To your point. So I don't know what it looks like. It's a good problem to have. How do you feed all those mouths is a challenge that these coaches are gonna have to figure out. And what you hope is that you're so good that
You're
you
up
can
20.
you're up 20, you can put teams
Go ahead,
away,
Oscar. Go
and
have fun.
you can play guys, and you can make a lot of guys happy. And then it feels good for everybody. Winning feels good for everybody because you're playing everybody, right? When you're
Yeah.
blowing everybody out. So
And
you
what
hope
makes me
that way.
happy is to see Sam with a smile on his face after the Pistons. He was down on basketball temporarily. Now all of a sudden you can see, compete for a Big Ten title and top 10 team in the country and maybe a 2 or 3 seed in the NCAA and dreams of Final Four. Yeah, you're happy, Sam.
Yeah,
I can
I'm
see
super
it.
happy. I'm
Yeah.
super happy to get this episode in, to be in with all the people and see all the folks in on an impromptu episode of the Basketball Insider. Got over 1,500 people in the room without even an announcement. So that's big time. Glad to see all you folks in here as excited as we are. And we expect to see Chrysler rocking this year on both the men's and the women's side. The women had a big time freshman class. They had big time transfers in as well. A former top 20 player in the country in the transfer portal in their own right. So they're doing doing big time things on that side of the ledger as well. So just big things all around on the hardwood for the Maize and Blue. So Tim, I got to tell you, I was excited because you were saying, Sam, don't get too excited, and then it happened. Then they got Yaxel in the fold. So
Yeah.
big time stuff. So happy to see you. I hope you're having a great summer there, Tim. Big time NBA action. And hopefully these Pacers, I'm not even a Pacers fan. As a matter of fact, with how the things were going between the Pistons and the Pacers, I didn't like the Pacers much. But I want them to knock off these Knicks. So hopefully they get it done, Tim, and they can go on to the NBA Finals. So with
Yeah.
that, my friend.
What they're showing, Sam, is that it is possible to have a 10-man rotation. That might be what Michigan has.
Right. Right. That would be something. That would be something if Michigan could get that done with a long rotation, extended rotation, and ride that all the way to hopefully the Final Four, maybe even the championship. With that, Tim, another great show in the books, folks. We appreciate you, and we hope that you enjoy this edition of the Michigan Basketball Insider. We'll be seeing you.